This is the Yay. I'm Reg Clay.
And Norman G.
This is the Yay, where we talk about life in the theater and the theater of life.
Yay!
We want to thank, as we always do, Central Works, the New Play Theater, headed up by Gary Graves and Jan Schleifler. Central Works Theater, reinventing theater one play at a time. We want to thank them so much for sponsoring the Yay.
Yay!
And we have a fantastic guest, Torange Yeghiazarian. You
Hello.
are a playwright, you're an actress, you're the founding artistic director of Golden Thread Productions, and I'm sure you do many more things. Torange, how are you doing today?
I'm really well. Very happy to be here with you.
Thank you. You have to tell us how you got to know Norman, and I'm sure there are other things that you do. I mean, are you involved in any other theater companies currently?
Not currently, no.
Okay. Well, right on.
Yeah, I was trying to remember, Norman. Did we just kind of run into each other at that cafe on Park Boulevard, or
No, I don't think so, because I think the only times I've ever gone there have been to meet you.
Oh, so how did we originally meet? At TBA?
I think it was I'm thinking it was probably something like, were you on the theater services committee for
Yes.
TBA?
Yes.
I think we might have met formally that way, but when you guys moved in, when Z Space moved into that office on 10th Street,
Yeah.
and then you guys got a space in there, I was in there regularly, dealing with Playwrights Foundation and with Word for Word.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you just stopped me one day and you were like, "You're a director, right?" And suddenly I'm like, directing a new musical that is being written as we are working. I was like,
Yeah, so that was
This-
Love Missile, which was our first commissioned work. It was an anti-war musical. This was in 2003, when the U.S. basically invaded Iraq and that war was going on, and
right.
we were pulling our hair. So this was our way of, I don't know, I think surviving for one thing, but also expressing our point of view. Yeah. And I don't know, Norman, if you remember or not, but my mom was in that play.
Yes.
And Sophia Ahmad was in that play, and they were playing a mother and daughter in Love Missile. And then years later, they performed together again in 2015. They performed together again in Isfahan Blues. And Sophia played a younger version of my mom.
Oh, how cool!
Yeah, yeah. So Love Missile lives on.
I'm glad to hear it. No,
Always
it
remembered
was
fondly.
a twisted piece about a missile turning shit into love, literally. And so we had to represent that on stage, and I don't remember who came up with the idea, but we used chocolate frosting, cake frosting. So it kind of looked like it, but you couldn't help but want to lick your fingers every time you dealt with it. It was funny.
Yeah. And we had shadow puppetry. Remember
That was
Janaki?
beautiful, yes.
So all the attack scenes, the scenes in that other country where the war was happening, those were all done through shadow puppetry.
Yeah.
And we had such talented cast, playing the part of the president, and oh my God, it was a lot of fun.
It was wild. It was wild to work in that space, and the lighting designer I was so appreciative of, because I'm like, I know we're in a space with limited, and that was the first thing she said to me is, we're in a limited space.
Yes.
And I was like, okay. And then she came back after we did our first run through and said, "You've got actors in spaces you said you weren't going to have them." And I said, "I know, I tried." She said, I got it. Don't worry about it. And she just kept offering new innovations. And it was like, wow, the end result was not anything I could have dreamed of. I was so thrilled.
Yeah. And our costume and scenic designer, remember, because the New Langton Arts was mainly used as a visual art space.
Right.
The walls were all white. So our scenic designer covered the walls with trash bags, those black trash bags, because we weren't allowed to paint.
Right.
So I thought that was ingenious.
It's always wonderful to that's as we do this discussion of being a director. To me, one of the greatest things about being a director is the collaborative process. But what that really means, it's not like I'm trying to be fair and let everybody have a say in this. It's more
Yeah.
like I was thinking maybe we could do this, and I know, like for me, I'm lame with sound. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, well, I was thinking about this song, and the sound designer will come back and say, well, I did. I got that song, but I was thinking this might be a better choice. I'm like,
Right.
absolutely. Or you got me thinking in a new direction. Let's do that. My idea sucked.
Yeah.
Let's throw it out and put something better in.
Yeah, and it's been a learning process for me to not try to come up with the solution,
Right.
just state the problem as I see it and let people come up with, like everybody else, all the designers come up with solutions, because
Yeah.
that works a lot better.
Yay.
Yeah, the collaboration is it's a tough thing, especially when you have a vision and you want to make sure that your vision is not so tunnel vision that it's all about you and everyone
Hmm.
applying to what your vision is, but to make sure you have an open tent so that everyone's vision can come in, as long as everyone understands the scope of the play.
Yeah,
Oh,
But speaking of
I
2000,
know. We just sort of jumped in.
yeah,
right.
I know,
Why
no.
not?
And we'll get into current events and other things as well. But just I wanted to let you guys talk. In 2003, I mean, the immediately after September 11th and the Iraq
Beginning of the war.
war,
Yeah.
there were lots of theaters that were doing the exact same thing as your company, Torange. I remember being a part of the ISIS Arts Collective. There's a poster right there, Summer Short,
Uh-uh.
and that was focusing on the late Mike Ward. He wanted to focus on the horrors of the Bush administration, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of that energy going on in the Bay Area community during the early aughts.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
And now it's very different.
it's different, and I don't know if it's better or worse. We can get into current events.
It's twisted. No,
Yeah.
this has been a strange week. I started off with physical therapy
Hmm.
by video, which I didn't think would work, but she was really good. She's like, wait a minute, put your hand on your hip. Make sure that you don't move. I'm like, you can't, I don't even feel that. You can see that? I was like, yay, that's great.
Wow.
Now, are these still students or are these doctors?
No, this is my real physical therapist.
Oh, okay, got it. For
This
those
is for
that,
my body, and
yeah,
she's given me a bunch of exercises that just are simple little movements, but you do 20 of them and you feel like you're a little crippled as you get up to move around, which is okay. Those muscles are learning. And then
Hmm.
last night we opened Hamlet's Ghost with,
Oh,
well,
uh-huh.
we're officially sponsored or co-produced by the Pear
Air Theater.
Theater down in Mountain View. But this is, I think Neva Hutchinson has her own group that is the co-producer, and she
Oh, nice.
did this adaptation of Hamlet. So I'm playing King Claudius. It's a lot of fun, and we went for a bike ride yesterday. And as we're riding along, suddenly I come across this.
What is it?
Looks like a
At
pearl.
one point towards the end of the play, Hamlet and Laertes are getting ready to have a duel, I say, "My son, this pearl is for you." And I didn't have anything to use as a pearl. I was using a vitamin. It looked really stupid. We're riding along, and I'm like, "Whoa!" In the middle of the road, I'm like, "Whoa!"
There's my pearl.
I just stopped and grabbed it, took it home, washed it off.
Right on. That reminds me of the wonderful John Steinbeck short story, The Pearl. I don't know if you guys know that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I don't.
short novel. Yeah,
It's a short novel, and it gets into, I think it was written during the Dust Bowl. Basically, this indigenous family, husband and wife, Kino, finds a pearl, and it gets into, he's so greedy, he tries to cash it, but he wants to get the highest value, but his son is dying. And he's so greedy, he doesn't take the money immediately. He allows his son to die. He doesn't mean it for it to happen, but
right,
wonderful morality story. So I just thought
right.
Pearl. In any
Mm.
case, there's been some interesting current events. Right now is the 4th annual March for Black women. I don't know if you guys
Oh,
heard that. Yeah, so there's Black women are marching in Washington right now, really about the response to Breonna Taylor and Sandra Bland and so many other women
right.
who we just don't focus on enough.
Hmm.
So that is a powerful thing.
Well, I hope they're grabbing the positive side of it as well. I mean, Kamala Harris, this is a moment in history.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we, the Democrats, and those who really care about democracy, push it through. I mean, I'm I'm optimistic, but I'm also worried that,
Oh, I'm definitely worried, but I mean, I think we should respect the moment. It's a special moment.
absolutely. No, I totally agree.
And you
Toronto,
know, I'm not a big Kamala fan, but I am a big enough fan that I'm gonna vote for her and campaign for her. Yes.
Yeah, and she's a first generation immigrant, so that matters.
Yes. Yeah,
exactly.
very much.
Yeah.
And full disclosure, I used to work for Kamala Harris, so of course I'm a fan of her.
Oh,
Torange, do you have any thoughts about just what's going on and the movement or whatever? And we'll talk more about politics as well. But what do you think? Are you optimistic, pessimistic? How do you feel?
I mean, I'm by nature optimistic. That's why I'm in theater, I think. Otherwise, I would have given up a long time ago. But I think the situation is pretty dire, right? It feels like we're fighting invisible forces that are so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes to me, it feels like we don't even know who we're fighting.
Right.
Like who's in the background, who's pulling the strings, who's making things happen. Like even with the election, like this whole thing about the Supreme Court nomination, the
Yes.
fact that they're pushing it through so quickly.
Right. And pretending like it's normal to do it.
And like the whole Mitch McConnell, his agenda, I think he kind of wants to take us back to the 1950s.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or maybe even like before that. Maybe he wants to take us back to the 19th century,
Yeah.
I think those are his values. And I think, I think he's racist, he's a misogynist. I mean, of course, those apply to our president as well. And so it makes me, I just keep thinking, like, how did this person get elected, and how that these people are getting away with everything that they're doing?
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, and it just tells us, how much of a bubble we're in the Bay Area, or if you're in a major city, because there are people in Kentucky who vote McConnell in and who are like, hey, you are the vessel of all of the morality and the family values that we want to push on America, regardless of how many rights it tramples. And McConnell's niece is married to Daniel Cameron. You know who Daniel Cameron is, don't you?
No.
That's the Attorney General.
Oh, the black guy.
That's right, the black guy, the Attorney General of Kentucky, who says, "Oh, the Breonna Taylor thing, we're not going to, we're not going to prosecute." Well, they got, the grand jury will indict one individual for shooting into the wall.
Right.
Forget about Breonna Taylor and the 6 bullets that hit her.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's an absolute travesty, and I work in law enforcement, and I do not agree with Daniel Cameron. And the fact that there's such a close relationship, I didn't realize that he was married to McConnell's niece.
I didn't know either. Yeah.
No, he's definitely ambitious. He is ambitious. He is looking to make that climb that ladder, get up the next rung.
Yeah. Well, you talking about Cameron? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I tell you, that's the Republicans. When you talk about the hidden forces, it seems like every week the Republicans have yet another bullet or another piece of ammunition to use. It's like, we have this woman, I forget her name, this ultra conservative woman that Trump wants to push in.
Oh, the nominee.
Yeah, the nominee. And the fact that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, that's ammunition for the Republicans. And then you have this black guy who willingly will, acquiesce to Mitch McConnell and the Republicans to not prosecute.
I mean, so the optimist in me says that we're being challenged to fight for our rights.
Right.
Like fight for this thing that we call democracy, fight for peaceful transfer of power, fight for, an independent Supreme Court. Like if it matters to us, then we have to fight for it. So that's the optimist in me. The pessimist in me is like, we are so powerless compared to these larger invisible forces that are pulling the strings and like moving us like pawns. Like even Trump, he doesn't know what he's doing. He just says whatever comes out of his mouth. I don't think he has like a political strategy. I think his strategy is to just make as much money as possible and make his friends richer. But he's in so many people's pocket, you know, so that of course they're using him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And, you know, and the Democrat Party, I mean, you know, we have to, it reminds me so much of what happened after King was assassinated in 68, where, you know, the party just didn't have a person, and also Bobby Kennedy, who died in 68.
Right.
You had a party that was empowered and angry, but they were not united enough so that, you know, Nixon and the Republicans can just do whatever the hell they wanted to do. And just how conservative America was. I mean, you know, Nixon in 72 was a landslide victory. And so the Democrat Party feels sort of powerless as it was in 68. And I'm hoping that, you know, that Biden will be elected and that, you know, we can sort of right the wrong. And it's not so much we want to win against them, the Republicans. I mean, you know, there's some decent Republicans. You know, I think about Mitt Romney. You know, there's some Republicans who are not racist, who are not misogynist. They just care about being fiscally responsible. But then you have these far right folks who really just they damage democracy. I mean, the damage that Trump has made, and the people who support him, that has been the real damage to democracy. That's the way that I see it.
Well, do you see it as I'm curious. I mean, do you see this whole wave as a backlash to the Obama presidency, both in terms of having a black man in office and also his liberal agenda?
Definitely, both.
Yeah. I totally agree, and I think it's covert racism. I think it's, you know, they won't say it out loud.
But I mean, that's what I think too, and I. You know, I have to tell you, as an immigrant, I kind of have an outsider's view of American society and politics, I think, a little bit. And I have to say that race relations in the US have always just, driven me crazy, because I grew up in the Boston area, you know, and I remember actually living in Dorchester. I don't know if you're familiar with Boston, but Dorchester is half Irish, half black, and people don't cross that invisible line. And I didn't know my apartment apparently was on the white block, but, you know, the block behind me was the black block. And, you know, I would walk my dog 4 blocks around, and I would be circling like the Irish area and the black area. And I was like, wow, this is like such a drastic change, you know. There are no whites here, there are no blacks there. So and when I was going to high school, people were being bused. There was actual busing, and it just, like, that whole history. I mean, I don't have to tell you, but that history really it's
fascinating, and this is a great way to transition into an origin story for you, Torange. I grew up on the East Coast as well. What was it like being in Boston? I've been in Boston once, and as a Black person, I really did feel, I didn't feel welcome. I think there's a race problem in Boston. But tell us how did you immigrate? Were you born in the USA?
No, I was born in Iran. I came to the US when I was 14. My uncles lived on the East Coast, Connecticut and Massachusetts, and I went to live with the one that lived in Massachusetts, and then went to various high schools in the Boston area and got my undergrad degree there, and then moved to California to study theater.
I'm going to let Norman take over.
Ah!
I mean, I totally can, because I have tons and tons of questions, but you know, this is...
Well, jump in. No, so Torange, the reason I specifically invited you on was to be a part of this thing I've been calling the Bad Summit, the Bay Area directors, and just to talk about, I don't think, in fact, I'm sure I did not know you when I started Oakland Public Theater. I went out of my way to try and talk to all the East Bay theaters to say, everybody I could find, to say, hey, what's going on? What is it you're doing? And what is it that we can do, you know, ways that we can work together? I feel like as we're in the position that we're in now, with everybody's stuff suspended or going online, it seems like a great opportunity to stop and talk about where we are and how we got here and what maybe is coming next. So We always ask, for an origin story to start because we want to know where you came from. When did you get involved in theater?
Well, I did theater all like throughout my childhood. So in Iran, in school, I did theater. Then when I moved here, in high school, I was, oops, sorry, I have a doorbell that I have to answer.
Okay, yeah,
go for it. We'll be here. We'll we'll sort of talk. No, it's interesting with the Torange. I mean, I would really love to know what influence, because I'm always fascinated with how does America sort of sell itself to other countries? I mean, how do maybe they see American television or or listen to rock and roll or something like that. I'm always interested because us being born here in the USA, we have no idea how the what do you call it? The marketization of America is.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
but it was very, up until the regime took over, the Khomeini and the Ayatollahs.
Oh, yeah, that's right, the Ayatollah. Yeah,
it was very, very Western. It was the most Western of the Middle Eastern countries.
Yeah, the little that I know that the CIA in America installed the Shah of Iran in the 50s because, we wanted oil and all that sort of stuff. And then, of course, that ended in the 70s, when Torange comes back.
She's back.
No, she's back. Hey, Torange.
Yeah.
We were talking
we were just talking about, fascinated with the idea that, so you were doing theater in Iran. How was that at all different when you got to America? Was it basically just the same style, same theater?
It was the same. We, obviously our focus was mostly on Iranian playwrights, but we were certainly learned about other like global playwrights like Shakespeare and Moliere and Chekhov. And then the theater scene in Iran was very active. So I actually saw a lot of theater as a child. And Chekhov was very popular in Iran when I was a kid. So he was one of my favorites. Yeah.
Chekhov for a child. Wow.
Well, he has all these comedies, that are very animated.
Right.
I don't know. His characters, I find, are very animated and multidimensional, so they're fun for me.
Did you ever get into Ibsen when you were a child? I always look at Ibsen and Chekhov as sort of bookends to each other.
Well, Ibsen is more serious and more moralistic, so I not so much my cup of tea, but Ibsen was also popular in Iran.
Yeah,
yes,
because he did A Doll's House. Is that right, Norman?
Yeah. Among others, yeah.
So Strindberg and Ibsen and Chekhov, I mean, they're contemporaries, and they were all widely produced.
The modern theater, So what brought you to America?
The revolution. So in 1978, there were demonstrations against the Shah. And my family was worried about our safety, so they sent my sister and I off to the US to live with our uncles.
Wow.
With the idea that we would come back in the summer when things have settled down. Well, things did not settle down. The government changed. The Shah was toppled. Khomeini took over. And within a couple of years, people voted for an Islamic Republic. So my family eventually, over the course of 4 years, 5 years, left the country, and we all settled on the East Coast in the Boston.
Oh, you stayed on the East Coast first?
Yeah. I didn't move to California till 91.
Oh, okay. So you got there and you started doing theater. This was
in high school. I mean, the public schools in Massachusetts all had arts programming.
Sure.
Music, dance, theater. So I did, bit parts here, there. I auditioned for things. I auditioned for the chorus line.
Oh, yay.
I wasn't cast. And then as I was finishing my undergrad in Massachusetts, I was thinking about, because my undergrad is in clinical sciences. So I was thinking about, okay, do I want to go to medical school or do I want to get an MFA in theater? Like those were my two choices.
Right.
And this was in the 80s during the Reagan era, and the healthcare system was going downhill. So I didn't want to be practicing medicine in that environment. So I decided to pursue theater. I auditioned for some acting programs, and I sort of kept getting this feedback that I would never be cast in a leading role, that I would, because of my looks and because of my accent, I would always, that it would be difficult for me to be cast, to be cast at all.
Right.
And then if I were cast, it would probably be, I don't know, like the caretaker or the cleaner or some small.
I would have thought you would have resembled Ingrid. Is it Ingrid Bergman? I thought well, in any case, I thought that you would have, been more of a, like the foreign ingenue or something like that. But
well, in the 80s, I mean, if you remember in the 80s, like this is when, what was Crystal and what was their name? That TV series, like,
oh, Dynasty, yeah.
That was the look that was being celebrated. So I didn't fit that.
Oh,
what a shame.
Yeah. So, I figured, okay, well, I'll go, I'll go to.
So this was even in an MFA program you were running into this?
Oh, absolutely. Acting programs.
Uh-huh.
Acting programs. And then here, once I moved to San Francisco, I auditioned for a few acting programs. I didn't get in, but San Francisco State had an MFA program at the time where you could actually write, direct, and act.
Yes.
Which is what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So I had an audition for that program, but unfortunately, because of statewide budget cuts, that program was canceled 2 weeks before my audition.
Wow.
So
what brought you to California?
To audition for these programs, yeah.
Oh, wow. So here you are, no program. What do you do?
Well, I have family in the Bay Area, so I was staying with family. Then I just found a full-time job in the health industry. Mm-hmm. And, did that. And then, there's a very strong Iranian community in the Bay Area. So I performed in a couple of plays in Persian. Then I wrote and produced a play in English and staged it at San Francisco Fringe. And then eventually I went to San Francisco State and got a master's, not an MFA, but a master's in theater. And my master's thesis became Golden Thread's first production.
Wow, I love the trajectory.
Yeah, it was
and I think a lot of people. Yeah, it's funny because you say that there's an Iranian community and a theater scene.
Yeah,
I don't think a lot of people are aware of that. So could you say a little about just what Golden Thread is, what the mission is, and
Golden Thread
that place they occupy in our theater?
Yeah, Golden Thread Productions. We founded it in 1996, and we didn't know this at the time, but it is in fact the first American theater company focused on the Middle East. Mm-hmm. So there were theaters in the US that were, let's say, specifically Iranian or specifically Arab American.
Right.
But there wasn't this idea of a broad umbrella of Middle Eastern American theater.
Right.
So that's what Golden Thread did, was establish that, obviously inspired by, Latino theater and Asian American theater and that whole movement. So in the first couple of years, we did maybe 1 or 2 productions a year. It took, we didn't actually incorporate and become a 501c till 2001. So we began that process in the year 2000, and we were incorporated in 2001. And I had this vision of, if I just produce a season of 3 productions a year, the people will come. And that wasn't the case. I mean, it was really difficult. The like marketing side of things and the operation side of things, fundraising, those were very challenging. So we struggled a lot, even though we had community support. But
Right.
um,
Did 2001 affect that, or was it,
well, 2001, 9/11 was, it brought national visibility to our theater company. I was interviewed by the New York Times about my opinion about 9/11 and what happened. And I said, what I found was that they weren't actually interested in my opinion of what happened. They just wanted me to confirm what they were saying.
Right.
And my view, based on where I'm from, maybe, or my upbringing, is very critical of American foreign policy. So I don't hold back, as you know, I don't hold back when it comes to that. And like when you
Now, would
look
you say
at,
that's personal, or would you say that's like, was that part of the culture of Iran as you were coming up, that there was a discomfort, a suspicion about the U.S. and their intentions?
if it was, I wasn't necessarily aware of it. I think in Iran, people, and in most of the rest of the world, people are, they're used to political analysis and discussion and looking at trends, or looking at who's up, who's down, and who's behind what, who's benefiting from what, So this idea of always asking, okay, so this political event happened, but who's benefiting from this political event? Okay. And are the people that the media is talking about, that they did this, are they really responsible? Or because I tend to think about who benefits from something. And,
That seems like a. Go ahead. Were you saying something, Rich?
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I had a quick question for Miss Yeghiazarian. We've talked about racial issues, but usually when people talk about racial issues, it's always either Black or Latino, and we forget about the fact that there are other minorities who should be involved in the conversation. And I was curious as to how, let's say, have you been affected by racism by just, by your nationality, whether just growing up or even the pair theater? Let's say you not getting, let's say, a grant that maybe, I don't know, the Lorraine Hansberry or another company may have.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know. If you don't get a grant, it's hard to know why you didn't get it, right? Because you contact them and they say the panel assessed blah blah blah, right?
Right.
So it's kind of difficult. But I can tell you that during the 2000s, and this is based on data that was published in a study, because of the Patriot Act, a number of institutions pulled their funding from anything related to the Middle East.
Yow!
Because there were repercussions for them. If they were going to be if the project somehow linked them to some terrorist activity, which during those years was very broadly defined, then they would be jeopardized. So funding was very difficult during those years, and institutions were reluctant to support our work. But we benefited from funding from San Francisco Art Commission, California Art Council, GFTA, and then later the Hewlett. Those were sort of our main sources of funding, and then smaller local foundations like Zellerbach, etc. But I think the fact that our focus is on the Middle East, the fact that many of our plays openly discuss political issues, it scares people away. Even Middle Eastern foundations,
Wow.
They're more comfortable, let's say, supporting our children's program because it's safer.
Right.
But the full-length plays that I don't know, expose some kind of political issue is a little touchy for
Which
folks.
is funny because you would think Bay Area theater, that the Bay Area would be open to political discussion. I wonder
I
what
think
kind
it
of
is.
reception. Go ahead.
I think Bay Area theater is open to discussion, but you know, I think we think of ourselves as more liberal and more progressive than we actually are.
Right.
Like it's difficult, it's particularly for someone who thinks of themselves as liberal and progressive, it's very difficult for them to face their own racism. It's
Oh,
very difficult for
yeah.
them to face their own fears
Hmm.
about the Middle East, right?
Right.
So these are challenges, and we try to have discussions and open it up, but
Well,
they're
like I said, I
challenging
think we
conversations.
met through the TSC, and it was a wonderful. It's an It's Theater Bay Area brings together all these theater companies to basically have a discussion about what is going on and what is the scene. How did you feel like your reception was from the general theater community for Golden Thread?
Well, when Golden Thread was coming up, it was an exciting time because a number of new theater companies were emerging.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, African American Shakes had started the year before us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Crowded Fire started the year after us.
Yeah.
Fool's Fury, Cutting Ball. So there were a whole bunch of us,
Mm-hmm.
new companies. We were all present at TSC and supporting each other and coming up with tools and policies to help each other. I mean,
Yeah.
and if you remember at Z Space, all of these companies had their offices
I know it
there,
was a great.
right?
There was an old office space that was suddenly Z Space got in from their old space and suddenly had a little more. They had some extra offices, and they started. It was really smart. They said, "Well, we should really cultivate this relationship with these other companies," and it's something I've always thought was important. I've always hoped to see it happen more largely, but
Yeah,
those companies that take the time to actually communicate with each other and participate in what's going on, I think that if I were going to identify something as, one of the most positive things in Bay Area theater, I'd say it's that. When
hmm
there's a relationship between companies. And
hmm
I always feel like theater companies are aware of Golden Thread, but I'm always happy when I see, like, when you guys got connected to Potrero House.
hmm
What are they calling it now?
Potrero Stage.
Potrero Stage.
Yeah,
That, and you were connected to it even before that.
yeah.
But again, it was those relationships because I feel like if you're only going to do 2 or 3 shows a year, somebody else is going to be filling that stage. If it's a company that you have a relationship with, then your audience, you're going to start to share audience. Do you see that at all happening?
I mean, it's something that Potrero Stage is trying to do. They're trying to come up with a program that can benefit all the companies that utilize that space.
Yeah,
Crowded Fire and Golden Thread, we are the two companies that are resident companies at Potrero Stage.
right,
And we also in the same building, independent of Potrero Stage, we share an office and rehearsal space.
right.
So we have a closer partnership with each other. We're both new play producers. We are
Right.
both about amplifying underrepresented voices. So we have a lot of overlap in our mission and vision and the way
Hmm.
we approach things. I don't know that that's necessarily the case with every company that
Right.
produces at Potrero Stage. So it'll be interesting to see how we can share audience because their audience may not be interested in our work.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah,
But
it's
it's
been.
something that it's in that it is in process.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you occupy such a unique position in the whole spectrum of American theater,
Yeah.
let alone Bay Area theater. I'm always curious to know where those places are where you find that you can make connection and where you find that you're kind of on your own.
Well, we're part of a national network, and for a number of years we've partnered with organizations nationally to really raise the visibility of Middle Eastern and North African theater artists.
Nice.
And so just this year, we finally launched Middle Eastern North African Theater Makers Alliance, which has a website and people can see it. But this is the first national advocacy organization for our community. And it's the result of many years of community building and outreach nationally. So I think moving forward, there's going to be a lot more national support for our work. I'm always surprised when people in the Bay Area say, "Oh, I've never heard of Golden Thread." So
Right.
I don't know where to advertise. I don't know.
Right.
The Chronicle doesn't review you, or the Guardian closed, or whatever. I don't know where people find out about theater. Now it's just everything's become focused on social marketing and online outreach. So
I think it's a new game that a lot of theater companies are trying to figure out. Do you do Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook? What's the new trend? What's the latest trend? Or what's an old trend? And I think Golden Thread is not the only one. There are a lot of theater companies that are struggling, especially those that have been around for a long time, because they're used to the old way of doing things.
The old way doesn't work anymore. So, but how does social media work? I mean, if I put up on Twitter that I saw your show and I loved it last night,
does it actually translate into
does that
audience?
work? Yeah.
Well, we're working on a series of audio plays right now. So because we want to produce online content, right? So on October 6th, we're going to release a full-length play, an Iranian full-length play, actually, called The Language of Wild Berries. It's going to be released as a podcast. It'll be free to access. People can stream it or they can download it. And then on October 7th, we're going to have a conversation with the playwright on Zoom.
Nice.
Live stream that. So, and that's the first of our major online events. And we're going to build on that with 2 more.
Moving into the 21st century.
Miss Yeghiazarian, do you know, a good friend of mine is Nasim Badi, and she is also Iranian. She's an actress and a playwright. I don't know if you know her or not. Is
she Bay Area?
Yeah, she's Bay Area.
I don't know. Would you introduce us?
Yeah, I'll definitely connect the two of you, because I think she would really enjoy, because she's a playwright looking for a platform to express exactly what you're talking about, what it is to be a woman. And she has a lot of interesting stories about living in Iran, and also about American involvement. You had talked about how America sort of, paints itself as this wonderful, well, we're the land of the free and the home of the brave, and we're so wonderful. But in other regions, if you are from Iran or Iraq or whatever, you'll have a different take. We were talking just while you were answering the doorbell. Norma and I were talking about the influence of the CIA, inputting in like the Shah and trying to sort of direct things, and I'm sure that's had a
and that's become our foreign policy in general. We seem to approach everybody using that model.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. is not unique. I mean, this is a superpower thing, and countries meddle in each other's affairs, and the powerful feel that they have the right to do whatever they can. So I think it's our job to stop them. And, whether it's U.S. policy in Central America and South America or the Middle East, from my perspective, it's been disastrous. And in Central America and South America, it's actually led to some of the environmental problems that we're now seeing with deforestation and abuse of land because of mining, etc. So, I mean, these are yeah, I mean, if you call yourself a democracy, your citizens must be more involved. And
Yeah.
I think what's happening in the US more and more is that, we're just really comfortable not being involved. It's
Yeah.
like,
Well,
as long as I have my job and my car and I'm
yeah,
like,
we're distracted. We have
whatever.
our toys. We're not focused on what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and
And
it seems like it would be
I
a
include
challenge.
myself in that. I'm not saying
Ah,
I'm
right.
different, but
You enjoy your coffee.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did.
But it seems like it's a challenge with that to grapple with the sort of perspective that is being an immigrant, being someone from the Middle East, trying to communicate with an American audience. How do you keep it from just feeling like it's always going to be heavy?
Yeah, I mean, that is a challenge, and we do comedies. We also try to, I look for stories that make connections to American narrative. So, for example, we have co-produced with Asian American theater language rooms, which included a character, which only had one Middle Eastern character, but and then an African American character, an Asian Muslim character, and together they were, telling a story. But because these other characters were there, you could see American perspectives in the play. And our plays are Middle Eastern American plays, right? And they are, at the end of the day, American stories because we're immigrants who live and work here, right?
Right.
Or with our co-production with African American Shakespeare on Isfahan Blues, it explored Duke Ellington Orchestra's visit to Iran in 1960s and the influence of the civil rights on the Iranian population and the influence of jazz music on Iranian population. But also,
gorgeous.
examining, US's what I call colonialist agenda, right? So an Iranian character in the play challenges the American character in the play, saying, how can you be fighting for civil rights but not see US's colonialist agenda elsewhere, and sort of making those connections. They're not separate from each other, they're connected.
No, it's exciting to think about that, and I think you were touching on that, Ridge, the reflection that we get from that immigrant perspective. This is who you are. This is how you are seen in the world. This is how you operate.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's important for us Americans to understand, from another perspective, how we really are. It's sort of like, the mirrors, like, you're not as perfect as you seem to be. And it's up to us as activists, if we really care about democracy, to say, hey, listen, we need to put to task, our leaders to say, you need to operate better. I did have a quick question. Do you enjoy directing more, or do you miss acting? What do you enjoy about theater the most?
I love writing. I consider myself a playwright more than anything else, and I enjoy directing. I haven't acted in many years, so I don't actually know if I'm an actor anymore, but maybe it's like riding a bicycle. But so writing, playwriting, and directing mostly. And I did want to go back to the point you were making before, though. I want to say that nobody's perfect and no country is perfect.
Right.
But the U.S. makes a lot of claims.
Yes.
Right? The U.S. makes claims to being a bastion of democracy and everyone having rights. And it's like, you can't say those things and behave the way you're behaving.
Yeah. Absolutely right. No, Dr. King, in his I Have a Dream speech, he talked about the proverbial check that is written. And, when we talk about the Declaration of Independence, and when we don't do what we're supposed to do as America, it's a bounce check. You tell someone you are free, but you're not as free as anyone else who has money or who has prestige or who is who has privilege.
Yeah, and I would say that, the immigrant perspective is not so different from anyone else in the US who has experienced otherness,
Yeah.
right? For whatever reason. So many in our audience are of mixed heritage or are LGBTQ, and they our plays, our stories resonate with them because they can connect with that experience of otherness.
As somebody working with the larger theater community, do you find that they're responsive to you? And I know that your plays, because I've known people been in the plays, I've directed, um, that it isn't like you're only focused on Middle Eastern, talent, and particularly with technicians and such. It seems like are people aware enough for the company to reach out, or is it an insular community?
Um, I think, our resident artists are mixed, right? So it's Middle Eastern artists and non-Middle Eastern artists.
Okay.
So we've been working with a group of artists consistently that are of mixed background.
Hmm.
And I don't know, the Bay Area is interesting. On the one hand, it's so supportive and collaborative and wants to reach out. On the other hand, resources are so limited. We're always pitted against each other. We're
Right.
always fighting for the same audience. We're fighting for the same funding.
Yep.
And so it's a little bit of everything.
May I ask one? If I don't want to disturb your groove, Norman, but I'm
No, go for
fascinated.
it.
So there are a group of us that are working on the Brecht project. That's the project that I'm working on, and so me and a bunch of other playwrights are writing plays, adapting modern interpretations of Bertolt Brecht's play Fear and Misery in the Third Reich, and they are like 27 little one acts. But as a playwright, as a young playwright, how do you find different distinct voices? It's very easy to lock in on your voice because you come from your perspective, but how do you find other perspective? Let's say if you had to write a part for a Black man, how do you get into that space? I mean, how do you do it yourself, Torange?
Well, when I had to write a part for a Black man in Esfahan Blues, and my Black male character was a musician. So,
Hmm.
I mean, the real person that my character was based on was a musician. So he didn't have writing for me to refer to. So I researched Black authors of the
Uh-huh.
same era to see if there was somebody's voice that resonated with me in terms of what I knew
Yeah.
about this character. I'm a huge fan of Langston Hughes, so
Yeah.
I went to him first.
Uh-huh.
But he's too much of a poet, too sweet, too.
Yeah, that's a
So
nice way of putting it.
that wasn't exactly the voice that I was looking for. Um, so I looked at some of the older activist voices, like from the turn of the century.
Oh,
Then I came back to the 60s and um, landed on an author that that definitely inspired the voice of this character for me.
oh yeah. Who?
Yeah,
You guys guess.
I
I would
mean,
say Amiri Baraka. I would say Leroy Jones. I don't know.
no.
No.
My first thought was Baldwin,
Yes, James Baldwin.
There we
yeah,
go. There we go.
Yeah.
who is huge now. It's an exciting
Yeah.
time to watch that voice just continue to be more and more relevant. It's
Yeah, and
exciting.
what does that mean that that voice is relevant now? I mean,
I
that
think the
that should give us
barriers
pause.
to him being heard are dropping. I guess that I can't imagine otherwise why, because it's not like it wasn't any less true when he said it, but I don't think he was heard as much.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the situation hasn't improved, I think,
Right.
you know.
There's a beautiful clip of him as an older man being interviewed and saying, basically, they're saying, why are you pushing for this now? And he's like, well, how long are we supposed to wait? Am I, my nephews and my nieces, are they supposed to wait? Is that next generation supposed to wait?
Yeah.
How much longer? It's been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was wild because you could see the hurt in his eyes. And it's the same hurt you see when you look at those 60s clips, the young man expressing all this.
Yeah.
I feel like we're getting close to time, but I did want to ask if you are ready to talk about it, what this transition is going to be. Are you moving on that yet? Is that something you can share?
Yeah. So I think our selection committee, and I'm not a part of that selection committee, they're either beginning to or will very soon begin their interview process.
Yeah.
And I think the schedule is that they'll make an offer so that we have identified our new AD by the end of the year, with the idea that they would begin by January 2021 is the idea.
Ooh.
So we'll see. And I'll stay on through March and be there to support the transition and the new AD. And after that, I'll be, or around the same time, I guess, I'll be directing at UC Berkeley. And then after that, I'm hoping that I can take a little time off, maybe do a cross-country trip if that's possible. I've never done a cross-country trip, so I'm
and just again, so that we're clear for people listening. So you'll be stepping down. Is your title artistic director, executive director? What have you been titled?
Founding executive artistic director.
All of it. And you are looking for somebody to step into these shoes. All of it, or
executive artistic director.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's going to be a huge shift, and I can imagine having some time off will be new.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll still be a part of the Pear Theater. I'm sure you'll still be a part of,
Golden Thread.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Golden Thread.
Yeah, I mean, I won't be in any formal way, but hopefully I'll come back as an artist and, be produced or direct or something.
Can you give us a hint at who's in the running, or should we just wait for the big announcement?
You should wait for the big announcement. I actually don't know. I don't
okay. Know. You've really made sure you stayed out of that process.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yay.
As you guys were talking about James Baldwin, a book that I'm reading now is called "The Fire Is Upon Us." It's probably
oh wow!
Here, it's a wonderful. It's about the debate between James Baldwin and William Buckley.
Oh yes. There was a program last week.
Yeah. I mean, there are all sorts of YouTube videos on it, and there's, I'm sure, a documentary on it. But I was sort of getting into, because obviously, you and Norman and I, we've talked about when Baldwin was in France, and when he came back from France to the United States, he almost immediately got into the political circuit. Not only was he writing for the civil rights movement, and he wrote the article in Time magazine, but he got into a debate with this ultra-conservative, which is really an echo of what's happening right now, conservatives versus liberals. And William Buckley, for those who don't know, was an ultra-conservative who, tried to espouse conservative values and all sorts of stuff, and it's an echo of what's happening right now. So
and they literally did it this week. They David Frum and I don't know the black person who is from Harvard, I think, recreated the debate.
Wow.
That was that. You can see that now. That was recreated this, I think it was like Monday or something, but it was done this week. Yeah,
I'll definitely check that out.
In connection to the book, I think.
Yeah. Well, Torange, thank you so much. And, I'm dying to see one of your plays, because, it's...
Or hear. You may hear one of our plays soon.
Yeah. Well, hear and see. I mean, obviously, after COVID-19, we'll actually go to the theater and see.
Yeah.
But it's something Scott Munson is a mentor of mine, and he would always say, as Westerners, we're so conditioned to what we see and the media that we get. We need to really hear voices from other cultures, because that's the way that we can grow as artists.
And I think it's an exciting way to tell story from a new perspective. So, because when you see the stories, they're stories. It's stories of love, stories of revenge.
Yeah.
It's we know these stories, but the context may be new and exciting.
Yeah. I mean, the language of Wild Berries is essentially the story of a marriage. So, I think it's very accessible, and people who hear it will love it, I think. I'm pretty confident that they will love it.
We'll be able to share it.
That's right. Send us the link.
No, it's in the email, right? You
send
it in the email. Yeah.
Yep. So we'll definitely promote it. All right. Shout out.
Thank you.
Yeah, birthdays.
Okay, we're gonna talk about, if you know any other shows you want to promote, or birthdays is what we're gonna hit right now. Birthdays for this week. Randall King, who is the founding director of the San Jose Stage Company, amazing actor. His birthday's coming up this week. And Kara McKelvey Phillips. It's funny, even when I see this woman's name, I'm like, oh, who is she? I did, oh gosh, what's it called? God of Carnage.
Oh.
And I ended up with 3 wives by the time we finished that run. We extended, and that was part of it. She got hired, and she said she had a wedding she had to go to. So a 3rd woman stepped in.
Aren't you lucky?
And did 1 weekend with me. That was weird. So she's one of my wives, one of my exes. Taya Tuggle is somebody I know from Each One Reach One, doing work in juvenile halls. Carrie Paff is this amazing actress, and she was casting and putting together outreach programs, and is just somebody I'm always happy to hear her name and know that she's still working. Amazing actress. Brenda Lamberty is somebody I met through the Latino Theater Network, and she is a comedian. She's this very attractive Latina who loves to do comedy. So it's a neat sort of juxtaposition, and she keeps bouncing back and forth between here and LA. If you've ever seen, there was a specific show that was in the style of the punked shows. She did one of those. Not one of them. She was a recurring person in that. So they would do up, like there was one where they walk in, and she's just all over this guy about, we were supposed to be getting married, and you didn't show up, and what's going on? I'm in my dress, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
And the guy's mother is standing there just freaking out. Anyway, that's Brenda. Kevin Carrick is somebody I got to do Man and Superman with Shotgun Players, and I didn't even know he existed. What a powerhouse of an actor. Wonderful. Jenny Reed, a Bay Area director, somebody I first met when I was on the selection committee for the Bay Area Playwrights Festival. And I think she now lives up in Oregon, but her birthday is this week. Kevin Lassett, I have done 1 full-length movie, decent-sized role in a full-length movie. It's called Coming of Age, and there were 2 guys. He played the sidekick, the friend of the main character. I end up becoming the mentor character in that film. It's and I die. So I've been I've got it on VHS, and I want to transfer it so I can actually show people, because I've got this wonderful dying monologue. Who else? Lee Jenkins, Bay Area playwright. Been around for as long as I've been paying attention to the playwriting scene here. Ruben Grijalva, on the other end of the spectrum, is a younger playwright who I met through the Bay Area Playwrights, not Bay Area Playwrights, Playground, SF Playground. And then started seeing he's done some commercial work and writing different pieces. Exciting young talent who is now married, married and has a baby in the age of COVID.
Yeah.
And last one is not really a theater guy. Actually, I think he did do a show when we were in high school. Glenn Wickman, but he is now my birthday buddy. So as I celebrate my birthday season, Glenn is my dude. We've been riding the Bay Bridge this will be the 8th year, and I will have to do it without him this year because he's in Canada. He's in Toronto. But we're going to call. We're going to check in, and he's going to do a similar length ride when we do our ride here, which will be next Saturday morning. Those are my birthday shout-outs.
Is today your birthday?
No. I celebrate a whole season. We still got a couple more weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. My birthday is on the 16th.
Yay!
Right on. Well,
And you're Libra.
Yes.
Free birthday, Torange. So here's my list. Today is Leslie McClellan's birthday. She is 63 years old, and it's okay for me to say because she has it on Facebook. She and I acted in 110 in the Shade. So that wonderful production, which had so many people. So I'll bring up 110 in the Shade all the time because it was such a massive cast. So happy birthday, Leslie. Colin Johnson. I think this is the Colin Johnson that you and I both know. There are 2 Colin Johnsons in the Bay Area.
Director and a stagecraft guy.
Yes.
And an actor.
Yeah, that's right. Matter of fact, I think we were doing the reading of Before the Dream. I think it was another Richard Wright piece that you brought us in.
Ah,
I forget.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, the Fire and Cloud. Didn't he do
Yes,
Fire and Cloud with us?
that's right. That's right. That's exactly right. So happy birthday, Colin. His birthday is Monday. Tuesday, James Centofanti. James Centofanti. We just call him Jimmy. His birthday will be Tuesday. He is a New Yorker, and he is like a true Italian New York actor, and he's been in the Bay Area. He last acted in The Birthday Party, which won a TBA award, and he's worked with Off-Broadway West when that was going on. So Broadway Jimmy, happy birthday to you. Also, you mentioned Ruben Grijalva. On Wednesday, Madison Celeste Geringer, and she's done a lot of work at the Town Hall Theater. She's an actress, but also she's done a lot of work with kids. The Town Hall Theater has a wonderful program for children, and there have been a lot of actors now who are adults who got their start at the Town Hall Theater. As a matter of fact, we've interviewed a couple of them, like oh shucks, I forget the woman's name, blonde. Really beautiful woman. But in any case, she was a child star, and she got her start at Town Hall. So we want to thank
All right.
her. Yeah. And also Marie Claire Erdunast. And she also is someone who got her start at the Town Hall Theater. And so we want to say happy birthday to her. Her birthday is Thursday. Lorenz Garcia. He is a Bindlestiffer, fantastic Philippine actor. And his birthday is on Friday, October the 2nd. And we keep on mentioning Joe Besecker. Besecker,
yeah.
And his birthday is Friday. You know, I know the name, but I've never worked with him.
He's a playwright. I'm surprised I didn't have him on my list. I'm going to put him down.
Yep. And the last one that I have is John Fisher, and he is, of course, the founder.
Oh, gosh, when's his birthday?
His birthday will be Saturday, a week from today.
Oh, that's why I don't have him. Okay.
Yeah. And he is, of course, one of the founders of Theater Rhinoceros. And,
well, he's not a founder, but he is the artistic director.
Artistic director, yes. And there it is. That's my birthday list.
Ooh. I don't have any new shows, but 2 shows that are happening today. The Neighborhood Stories thing, the project that Aaron Merritt has put together, is happening today at 3 o'clock. Around the lake. You can see it from your car. I don't really understand how that works, but that's happening. And then Linda Ayers Frederick, whose birthday was just last week, has a reading of her. I don't know the name of the piece, but it's at 3 o'clock today. This is through the Dramatists Guild. They do a thing called the Footlights series, reading series. And so that'll be happening today. And so I will send you links for both of those. And then, of course, this evening, Hamlet's Ghost has our, we opened last night and we closed tonight. Yep. 7 o'clock.
And actually, I have Linda Ayers Frederick. She emailed me, so I have that link as well. But
got it. Great.
It was very cryptic because I don't know the name of the piece. And
I looked it up on the website, and it just says, what does it say? It tells you new short and short plays exploring animate and inanimate.
All right.
By Linda Ayers Frederick. That's all it says.
Yeah, we will push it. We'll have the link there.
Here they are. A trip to Balaton, The Retired Fire Hydrant, Salt and Pepper, Uncle Houdini, and more.
Okay. All right.
There's a lot.
Yeah, I will. We'll push that.
Torange, any shout outs?
Just our Language of Wild Berries will be released as an audio play on October 6th.
Yay.
And then we'll have a conversation with the playwright on October 7th online. It'll be live streamed at 11 a.m. our time.
Sweet.
All right. And I will have links to, I've talked about it before, The Private Lives of the Not So Master Race. That's the Brecht project that I've been talking about. There's still the fundraiser going on. I'll have a link to that.
Okay.
We talk about Hamlet's Ghost. Please, everyone, see that today. Tonight is the last day to see it.
I'm the king.
That's right. Bystanders, Central Works, that's been extended. Norman, you talked about that. That'll be extended to tomorrow. So tomorrow will be the last time to see that, and we'll have a link to that. Also, Plethos Productions Joketoberfest.
Right.
Tickets. That'll be October the 3rd. And that is it. And we'll also push Torange's play.
Audio play, yes.
Audio play. We have the link to that. Torange, did you enjoy yourself?
Yes, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to have a conversation with both of you. Norman, it's been great to see you. And
I am so honored you were able to make time for us.
Yeah.
And I'll happily come over and have coffee. They're doing coffee over there.
I think so, yeah. I've moved, so now
Oh, you moved? Where are you now?
Yeah, I'm in, what is this place called?
You still in Oakland?
35th, yeah, still in Oakland, but 35th and MacArthur. Diamond, I'm in Diamond.
Okay, I used to hang out around there. I used to live on Piedmont Avenue, which is, it's a bit of a walk, but, you know, I'm familiar with the area. Very cool.
No, 35th? Yeah, no.
35th Avenue.
Yeah, near Farmer Joe's.
Yes, yes.
There you
After
go.
Fruitvale.
What's that?
After Fruitvale.
Right, after Fruitvale.
Yes. Yep. No, I know. We ride by on bikes, so.
Very, very cool. All righty, so here's my usual blurb. You, of course, looking at this or listening to this, you're probably looking at this on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you like what we're doing, please like and subscribe. Or if you don't and you have issues, let us know in the comment section.
We'll fix them.
That's right, and we will definitely fix them. If you're listening to this, you can listen to this on any podcast app that you have. If you haven't, or if you're an Apple user, there's this purple app icon that you click on. You can find us. Just type in the Yay and you'll find us. If you're an Android user, you can use the SoundCloud app or just go on soundcloud.com. We're on Spotify as well. We're also on the Apple's iTunes app. The Yay was created by theater people for theater people. If you have a show you want to advertise, or if you just want to advertise yourself, let us know. Hit us up on Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram. I'm at Red Space Clay.
And I'm at Who's Your Hoosier.
Torange, do you do social media? Is there a way that people can find you?
I mean, I'm on Facebook. I don't really do Twitter or Instagram, but it's my full name, Torange Yeghiazarian, on Facebook.
Yep. All right. And people can reach out for her because they're...
Yeah, and Golden Thread is goldenthread.org. You can go to our website and find out about our work.
Absolutely. And if there are other theater companies that are looking for a playwright to get a different perspective of life, you know, Torange is the person that you should be seeking out. There you go.
Thank you.
All right. And as Norman and I always say,
we got to find a better sign-off.
And we are out.